Welcome to our John O Lecture, Memorial Lecture 2025. As usual, this event is accredited by the Engineering Council of South Africa, 0.2 CPD credits. It's a value proposition to our attendance and membership. Our members who are streaming this event live, you are requested to claim this 0.2 CPD. We don't want you after or during your renewal, you come to SAIMechE and ask where's my CPD points and all that. This is a high time now. We're making it free. We've been taking care of our members and non-members of the institution for so many years as a centenary organization. We've been providing this education CPD to our engineers and all that. And then, without wasting time, I will say that we are live at Wits University. The hashtag today, it will be John O Lecture 2025, #Wits University, #By Knowledge You Advance. That's the motto of the institution. That's the Institute of South African South African Institute of Mechanical Engineering, SAIMechE. Before I go deep, I just want to acknowledge Prof. Raid, who's been here. We've been with him for a decade, running this event together, and we ran it during the days, the difficult times. He's been showing us direction. We really appreciate that, Prof, and we believe that the institution is owing something to you, and we are taking that into consideration with the president. Unfortunately, today is another day, but we would love to come back again, and do something for and recognize your work. Very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, to our members, the student chapters across the country, we are one of the institutions that is doing well at the moment. We value the future. Our student chapter is doing well. At the Wits University, we've got a young lady, Anna Njuma, who's leading our student chapter here. We are all over the country. The institution is growing. We're moving with a supersonic speed. I don't know whether it's aeronautical speed or supersonic speed, but we are doing well as an institution. I don't want to forget the president of the institution, Mr. Mashele, who's here, our council members, Mr. Graham is former chairperson of our branch in Gauteng, to Prof. Wilke, the head of Wits Mechanical, Industrial and Aeronautical Engineering, to the Dean of Engineering, Prof. Majosi is always come here when we've got this lecture to wish us good luck. So this year I decided that it's Friday, make it Friday. I want to come and say one thing. So we really appreciate that. I mean, we are so happy, we are so glad that you are here. You are lifting our institution, and we are lifting Wits also. It's a 50-50 situation. To Prof. Vilakazi, this is the first time that this event had someone like you as a Vice Chancellor. We are so happy, and we are glad that you are promoting the fraternity as a whole. Wits University is one of the institutions that we've been in collaboration with it for more than 60 years. And as a SAIMechE, and this lecture has got more than 60 years. So this is what we can say. And again, our relationship seems that's going stronger and stronger. We've got a postgraduate conference with you next week on the 28th in this university. This is a very special university. That's where we are here today. To our guest speaker today, Mr. Neil, frontman, all protocol observe. I've mentioned all of you. I think I have to mention myself. I wanted to forget. My name is Ansel Melembe, the South African Institute of Mechanical Engineering CEO. It is my privilege and honor to master the proceeding of this event this evening. And our order of the proceeding this evening will be as follows. We will first hear an official welcome from Wits University delivered by Prof. Zebulon Vilakazi. That's the Vice Chancellor of the institution. And then after that, we'll have the Dean of Engineering, Prof. Thokozani, who will be extending a special word of welcome to our guest speaker, Mr. Neil from Frontman, and other guests of note. Frontman, I remember in the mines, I think you'll touch base on that one also. In the mines, when we grow, when we get some positions, whether you start as an artisan, when you get a position as a senior artisan, you used to be called something makuluscope up until you reach that level as a CEO. I don't know if it was still there during your heydays. So we want to hear about that, the makuluscope. The makuluscope was here today. We have changed the program. We brought the captain of the industry. We've got the makuluscope today. And then after that, we'll call Prof. Wilke, the head of mechanical, industrial, and electrical engineering, to speak about the history and the significance of the lecture. Finally, we will invite the president, the man of the moment, the president of SAIMechE, Mr. SAIMechE, to express appreciation to our guest speakers and guest note. Yeah. Then, without wasting time, I would like to call my president, Mr. Mashele, to come forward and introduce the Vice Chancellor, who will be welcoming everyone to the university. And he must give us the road, the emergency road also, he mustn't forget. Yeah, when in case of emergency, where we're gonna run. So you must give us direction on that one. Thank you very much. Over to you, President.
Thank you, everyone. I'm not the man of the moment. Our CEO is the man of the moment, and we are excited to hear what he has to share with us. So I've attended the John Orr in person a couple of times, and whenever I get here, it would always be a mission because I don't study here. I never studied here rather, so I would not know where the emergency routes are either. So no, I'm the wrong person for that. No, so it would be an issue. I'd call Kerry. Where do I go? And then I should come down and fetch me. So today, as I disembark from my vehicle, the gentleman here is escorting me. No, Mr. Mashele, this way. No, and he presses the button for me. I'm like, hey, what's happening today? Hey, what's happening today? So all I can say is, Prof, please come every year, because when you are here, things are happening, yeah? So with that said, we really do appreciate you attending our John Orr. As the CEO rightly put it, we've had a long-standing relationship with vets. We've been partnering on the John Orr lecture, and this is a partnership that definitely is going to go into the future. Lots of value add for both institutions in that regard, and as we tackle the challenges of the country. I would like then to invite Prof. Vilakazi to come and invite everyone. Thank you. Am I supposed to shake your head?
Thank you, President Mashel. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you tonight. But before I do that, let me go through the formal protocol and start first with my colleague, Professor Thokozani Majosi, Dean of the Faculty of Engineering in the Built Environment, the Head of School of Mechanical, Industrial, and Aeronautical Engineering, Professor Nico Wilke, and I also recognize other heads of sister fraternal schools here as well, and also members of the engineering faculty and the fraternity here. Mr. Mashele, the president of the South African Institute of Mechanical Engineering, fellows and members of this august institution with whom we have a long-standing relationship. I see the former head of school is here as well, Professor Reid. Head of school emeritus, I guess. Also program director, Mr. Unsel Melembe, the CEO, and of course the man of the moment, our distinguished speaker, Mr. Neil Frontman, colleagues, students, and friends here and those joining us online. Indeed, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the University of the Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, WITS, and to this year's John O's Memorial Lecture. This annual lecture is always a special moment, as was mentioned earlier, both for the university and the engineering sector in general. It's a moment where the worlds of the academy and industry come together, where ideas meet application, and where research meets the realities of our country's developmental challenges and aspirations. We gather here not only to celebrate engineering, but to celebrate the people behind it. Those who build, who solve, who innovate, and those who take complex societies, who solve complex problems as they go forward. By background, I'm a physicist. We always say that what is a physicist's dream becomes an engineer's nightmare. Because the engineers make what are physics ideas practical and be realistic on the ground. So therefore, we are just here to philosophize, but you engineers are actually, in honor to you, are builders of civilization. Each and every epoch of human civilization is characterized by engineering. Civil engineering basically ushered the early ages of engineering, of civilization, from the ancient Greeks to the Pyramid of Giza, and everything that you see around us that has stood for hundreds and even thousands of years. And mechanical engineering made us outsource muscle power with horsepower, with engine power. Electrical engineering allowed us to basically light up lights. And then now we've got new data engineering, which will force us to outsource our brains into the machines. So engineers always take us one quantum leap ahead. So I honor the profession that has taken and advanced us into such great detail. As a young researcher, I remember, Mr. President, being a physicist at CERN. We said we're going to find the Higgs particle, the so-called God particle. But to build the Large Hadron Collider, it wasn't the physicists, it was the engineers. So therefore, without engineering, we would not even dream of what we try to think are the topics of science of today. So this lecture, fellow engineers, honors John O, a man whose contributions to this field still echoes in the corridors of this university, and of course, a school nearby. His legacy reminds us that engineering is more than just a profession. It's a calling to make life better for others, to find smarter ways to use our resources and solve our problems, to imagine what is possible where knowledge and purpose are put together. At VETS, we share the belief deeply. Engineers here have always been around in the previous paragraph than our distinguished speaker today, Mr. Neil Frontman, a friend who embodies that spirit. Through his career, he has shown that leadership and innovation go hand in hand, that business success and, most importantly, societal contributions may not be diametrically opposing forces, but they are all aligned in one direction as a common vector. That always has been the case with you, Neil. Gatherings like this remind us why partnerships matter between universities, industry, between professional bodies and academic researchers, and between those who dream, who's that person, and those who build, that's yourselves. In the era of rapid change, technological, environmental, and economic changes, this collaboration is what will take this city, this country, indeed, the continent forward. In closing, on behalf of the university, I extend my warm welcome to everybody and thank you for the honor of being bestowed upon us to host this august lecture. Thank you for being part of the tradition and for continuing the conversation about what good engineering can do for our society. Enjoy the evening, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the warm welcome. Without wasting time, time's not on our side. Supersonic speed is not there anymore. It's only aeronautical speed. We would like to call Prof Majosi, the Dean of Faculty of Engineering, to come forward and extend special words of welcome to Mr. Neil Makuluskop, frontman. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chantal, for that. I was listening very carefully to the preamble given by the Vice Chancellor, and he was very explicit in enumerating the disciplines of engineering that actually supported everything that he does. He mentioned mechanical explicitly. He mentioned electrical. I don't know how far he went, but I know for a fact he did not go to where he was supposed to be, which is chemical engineering. All of that would not be possible without chemical engineering. So I'll latch on all the protocol observed by the previous speakers, so I won't repeat that. I'll just say all protocol observed. And it is my great delight to extend a special word of welcome to Mr. Neil Froneman on this prestigious South African Institution of Mechanical Engineers John Orr Memorial Lecture. This annual lecture series bears testament to the enduring legacy of one of South Africa's most distinguished engineers, and it provides us with an invaluable platform to engage with thought leaders who are shaping the future of engineering and industry in our country and beyond. This evening, we are particularly honored to welcome Mr. Froneman, the former Chief Enabling Officer of SAIMechE, as our guest speaker. I call him the Chief Enabling Officer rather than the Chief Executive Officer. And I'll tell you why. Mr. Froneman is widely recognized as one of the most accomplished leaders in the global mining industry, with a track record of strategic vision, operational excellence, and transformative leadership that has positioned Sibanye-Stillwater as a world-class mining company. Of all his accomplishments, the one that stands out for me is his unparalleled investment in human capital, directly and indirectly. I feel qualified to say this, having witnessed and experienced firsthand the extraordinary partnership that exists between Sibanye-Stillwater and our Faculty of Engineering and the built environment here at Wits University. A partnership that was largely created and harnessed by Neil. Today, I'm pleased to inform you that Sibanye-Stillwater is the largest private sector funder for our faculty, a distinction that reflects not only the company's financial commitment, but also its deep understanding of the critical role that universities play in developing the engineering talent and research capacity that our nation so desperately needs. The support we received from Sibanye-Stillwater has been nothing short of transformational. Their funding has significantly contributed to several strategic areas that are fundamental to our faculty's mission and vision. For many years, they funded what is called DigiMine, which is by far our flagship project in the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, and also the genesis of what has become the Wits Mining Institute, the only institute of its kind in the faculty. But there have been a number of developments recently, and the list is endless, but I'll just confine myself to 4. Firstly, the Postgraduate Bursary Fund, which has enabled many talented students to pursue their master's and doctoral studies, students who might otherwise have been unable to access advanced education due to financial constraints. These graduates go on to become the researchers, innovators, and industry leaders who will drive South Africa's technological advancement and economic growth. Secondly, the Academic Development Fund has allowed us to invest in our staff, ensuring that our academics remain at the cutting edge of their disciplines through research support, conference attendance, and professional development opportunities. A strong academic staff complement is the backbone of any world-class university, and Sibanye-Stillwater's investment in this area has been invaluable. Thirdly, the postdoctoral program funded through this partnership has allowed us to attract the best talent from all over the world and created vital opportunities for emerging researchers to develop their expertise and establish themselves in their fields. Postdoctoral fellows represent the future professoriate and research leadership of our universities, and supporting them is an investment in the long-term sustainability of our research enterprise. Of course, there are a number of other players in that space in our faculty, SAIMechE being at the forefront of that. We had only about 7 postdocs, say about 4 years ago. We are now sitting at about 50 postdoctoral fellows, and that is highly commendable. I would like us to please give Neil a round of applause for that. I am aware that he's doing this with his team, ably capable team. No one does all this alone, but certainly there has to be leadership of some kind to realize all that. Finally, we also have what is called the Strategic Project Fund within the faculty, which has enabled us to undertake ambitious research initiatives that address real-world challenges facing our industries and society. These projects foster innovation, they create new knowledge, and often result in practical solutions that have immediate impact. This partnership exemplifies the kind of collaboration between industry and academia that is essential for our collective success. It demonstrates that when private sector leaders recognize the value of investing in education and research, the benefits extend far beyond the walls of the university. We produce graduates who are better prepared for industry. We conduct research that is relevant and impactful, and we contribute meaningfully to solving the complex challenges facing the world. You know, they say mining executives and engineering deans have something in common, Neil. We both spend our days looking for deposits. The difference is Neil looks for precious metal deposits underground, while I'm constantly looking for deposits in the faculty's bank account. And you've played a very big role, Neil, in making that a success for me. I'm not sure what role I've played to reciprocate. But for me, you've really been very, very helpful. Neil, your leadership in championing this investment speaks volumes about your commitment to the future of engineering in all its forms here in South Africa and beyond. And on behalf of the faculty, on behalf of our students, on behalf of our staff, which is well represented here, I extend our deepest gratitude to you and to SAIMechE Stillwater for your unwavering support. I'm glad that this evening we are also joined by Dr. Richard Stewart, who is the current CEO of SAIMechE Stillwater, with whom we've interacted very well. And I really hope that the foundation that you've built, Neil, is going to linger on for quite some time. Our role now is to put the bricks and have a building that takes us forward. Again, that has nothing to do with civil engineering. That is chemical engineering. And now it is my pleasure to invite Prof. Nico Wilke, who is the head of School of Mechanical, Industrial, and Aeronautical Engineering, to speak briefly on the background and significance of this lecture and introduce our distinguished guest speaker. Thank you.
Mr. Neil Fruneman, Mr. Michel Mashele, Mr. Unsel Malembe, council members of SAIMechE, senior executive team, members of university, members of the Industry Advisory Board, School of Mechanical, Industrial and Aeronautical Engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and privilege to welcome you all to the John Orr Lecture this evening. The purpose of this occasion is to honor Professor John Orr, who was an icon of engineering education in South Africa from the turn of the previous century through to the 1950s. John Orr was born in Scotland in 1870 and obtained a BSc in both mechanical and electrical engineering in 1893 from the University of Glasgow, which is incidentally the alma mater of also James Watt. In 1897, he moved to South Africa, and in 1898 became the Professor of Mechanical Engineering at the newly established Kimberley School of Mines. This school ultimately became the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, and he became the first head of the School of Mechanical Engineering, which eventually became the current School of Mechanical, Industrial and Aeronautical Engineering. In 1925, Professor Orr left the university to dedicate himself to establishing a sound technical education for apprentices and artisans. His vision led to the establishment of the Witwatersrand Technical Institute, of which he became director and the first chairman of council. The Witwatersrand Technical Institute was renamed as the Witwaters Technical College in 1930, undergoing a series of name changes until such time as it was merged into the University of Johannesburg as Technikon Witwatersrand. John Orr contributes to technical education where foundational as were many other achievements that time does not permit me to touch on. Highlights, however, would probably be his receiving the King's Silver Medal in 1935 and the King's Coronation Medal in 1937 and an honorary degree of Doctor of Laws conferred on him by the University of the Witwatersrand in 1936. He finally retired from the directorship of the Witwatersrand Technical College, not dictatorship, but directorship. But he finally retired in 1945 and sadly passed away in 1954. His name and legacy have been perpetuated through, firstly, the John Orr Technical High School, secondly, the main John Orr building at the Doornfontein campus of the University of Johannesburg, thirdly, the John Orr Wing of Laboratory building in the School of Mechanical, Industrial and Aeronautical Engineering at Wits University, and lastly, of course, the prestigious John Orr Lecture, to which we will shortly be treated by Mr. Neil Fruneman, which was initiated to honor him and to commensurate his achievements in engineering education in South Africa. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I would like to pass on the honor to introduce Mr. Neil Fruneman to our CEO from SAIMechE to not break previous protocol. So, Mr. Unsel, if I can ask you to maybe come to the front and please introduce our speaker for the evening. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the background and history of this lecture. Well done. And then we decided to cut Mr. Frontman's biography. We decided to make it short because if we can write everything, we're going to be in we'll arrive in Limpopo by still reading. So we said that let's make it short. So okay, let me take this one. All right, so his bio, Mr. Frontman, the former CEO of SAIMechE Stillwater, a distinguished South African engineer and a business leader. He graduated from this university, Wits University, with a degree in mechanical engineering. I hope during our days we were a member of SAIMechE, and if not, we need to talk after this. We need to talk after this. And then Mr. Frontman, with over 35 years in engineering and mining, recently retired from his role as the CEO of SAIMechE, which he led for 12 years from its inception as a purely South African gold producer. In 2023, his leadership, SAIMechE grew and evolved, becoming a prominent diversified global mining company, recognized for its innovation and commitment to sustainability and shared value for all stakeholders. Returning to his alma mater, he brings practical insight from a career that bridges engineering, innovation, and executive leadership in high impact, resource-intensive industry. His vision continues to evolve beyond mining. His next chapter builds on his legacy of combining large-scale engineering ambition with long-term value creation. This represents a forward-looking blueprint for how engineering leadership can shape new sector, stimulate regional economies, and deliver complex, multidisciplinary projects that inspire future generation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Macoluscope, the captain of the industry, Mr. Neil Fruneman. Over to you.
Good afternoon, and let me just say there's a lot of comments that have been made that make me very humble. Professor Majosi especially, thank you. Professor Vilakazi, the Vice-Chancellor, nice to see you again. All the deans, all the other professors, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, all protocol observed. And it's truly a great honor as a previous VITSI and a mechanical engineer to be invited to deliver this year's John Orr Memorial Lecture. Now, I know a lecture is something that's quite long and painful. And I do have a long address, so I hope you'll find it interesting. Let me just say, and it's been mentioned, and I've just said it, I am a VITSI. From more years than I care to remember, the foundation of my career was set through this institution and the very invaluable education that I received. And I do remember in one of my farewell speeches saying I'm forever grateful for the academic experience that I had at WITS and the technical content that I got and the grooming that I got, which allowed me to be a good engineer initially. But what I remember today, I can write down here. So this is definitely not a technical address. I do want to share reflections on my career that I hope you will find interesting. I remember when I did engineering, there was not a lot we were taught about management. So hopefully there will be some value from what I say. So the first learning, believe it or not, was I had a bursary from Goldfields, and we had to do VAC work, not only for the curriculum, but our employer insisted that we do VAC work. I'm sure it's the same today. And the first learning was once doing VAC work, I was asked as a VAC student to actually lead a group of people on the mine as a relieving foreman. And in fact, I never intended to go into the mining industry. I was much more interested in the aeronautical side of things. But that responsibility that was given to me at such a young age stuck with me, and it was the empowerment that I learned from that situation that I carried through my entire career. So I remember that feeling, and it's important that when you embark on your careers, you remember to empower people. So from that, and Professor Majosi actually mentioned this, as a leader, you got to create an environment where employees can liberate their talents. And it was also said that one person alone can't make the difference. It's a team of people. So you've got to create an enabling environment, and the chief enabling officer came from recognizing that you got to enable and empower. And I do fondly remember being called the chief enabling officer. The other thing that we did at Sibanye was create a culture based on values called I cares. And I cares cares is real. You care about people. You will hear a lot of themes through this lecture about the importance of people and teamwork, and it's not individuals. But SAIMechE is an acronym for the I is innovation, and I will share with you how that evolved in the Sibanye portfolio. The C is commitment, the A in CARES is accountability, the R is respect, and enabling is the E, and the S is safe production. And I would just urge you always to put safety first, and we did that. So just because it's at the end, in fact, if we moved it to the beginning of that acronym, it becomes SCARES. So that's not smart. So that's why it's SAIMechE. But I must also say to you, you've been very complimentary to me in the introduction. But I can say that much has been, it has not been plain sailing. There have been many challenges through my career. And I can say those challenges have been much better learning opportunities than the successes. I would also say to especially the young people here tonight, your qualifications and your education don't entitle you to anything. Okay, you got to earn it. You got to get the experience at the coalface, so as to speak. And going through those processes will enable you to be very, very good leaders. So don't think you're entitled to jump straight into management. You got to earn that. So let me talk about my career and some of the challenges I had. I just gave you a very good example at Goldfields as not even a graduate engineer being allowed to take charge for a short period over a vacation of a team. But what I realized going back to work for the same company that impressed me so much was I didn't have the right school tie. And it bugged me, and I'm getting to the issues of belonging. So in my day, many of the leaders of the mining industry were landlords, and in fact many of them came from very humble beginnings as well. But they started forming clubs, and if you didn't have the right school tie, you weren't going to really move far up the organization. And as a result, I got to learn about meritocracy, and I left that company because I felt I could do much better. And I joined a company that looked at meritocracy as how you get it on in life, and that was another very important learning. Those are lessons on inclusivity and so on. So I also then had some real challenges in some of the businesses we established, such as Uranium One. We built a great company on a rising uranium price, and when the uranium price collapsed, we ran out of money, and we had a project that didn't work. But we went on to develop our gold business, and you would all know that Uranium One was eventually sold to the Russians, and Gold One was a company that some of the very same people developed. So I've had challenges. I've got scars on my back, and in Sibanye we talk about if you are going to fail quickly and learn. If you don't learn from that and move forward, you've wasted the opportunity. But probably the most challenging chapter we had was in 2018, when we had 2 multiple fatalities in our gold division. and that was very hurtful. We lost 12 people in total. We were severely criticized. It was a big public issue. And you can rest assured, as you heard right from the start, we put safety first. So it was extremely disappointing, and we got to understand that not everybody in the organization embraced our values the same way as management did. So we learned something else, the value of values. And we've worked very hard since then to improve our safety on reducing risk, but the value of values is such an important lesson. It builds a culture that can move mountains, and I'm sorry to say that many of the values in this country at this point are not the values that we should be following because of leadership, and I'm not going to go into too much more detail there. So also I want to say the learning from that was I would warn against looking backwards all the time. You can't drive a car on a difficult road or a bumpy road by looking in your rearview mirror. So look back and then move forward. I've had a multifaceted career, building a reputation as an entrepreneur who's alert to off-the-wall opportunities. I can't tell you where that came from, but I also want to say that sort of characteristic has allowed us as a company to grow in areas at times where people thought we were absolutely crazy. But I also want to say it's not a gamble. You can't speculate with public money or shareholders' money. And our education allows us to look at things, do market research, and then manage the risks. And so the company that you see today has been built by thinking outside of the box, and I'm sure Richard and his team will continue doing those type of things. Now, we saw an opportunity, the very same team. We were trying to buy some of Goldfields' assets as Gold One, and a small little company trying to buy a legendary mine like Driefontein, was unheard of. And we actually didn't get it right. But what we realized is Goldfields was going to unbundle their unloved, mature, deep-level, high-cost mines. And as a team, we agreed that perhaps this was an opportunity where we could achieve our dream as Gold One, but off a different base. And I actually volunteered to resign from Gold One, lead that process, and that's exactly what I did. I approached Nick Holland, the CEO at the time. His board supported it, and that was the creation of Sibanye. The name Sibanye means we are one. So you see this theme of one. But most of the very same team that had built Uranium One, Gold One, joined me at Sibanye, and the company you see today came from that. But there were other lessons that we took from our time at Harmony. A lot of my team also came from Harmony, where we developed the Harmony Way, which was a way of approaching mining in a very commercial and logical way of running a business. We never ever said we could break rock better than any other mining company, but we understood the business of mining. And as the leader, I got the reputation as Mr. Fix-It from veteran journalist Martin Creamer, and that turnaround ability of myself and my team was used to turn around these goldfields assets. And in 2 years, we turned these unloved assets into leading industry dividend payers in the gold industry. So that gave us a platform to look at the longer term, the sustainability. When Goldfields unbundled these assets, they had 4 or 5 years of life. In fact, a little bit longer, perhaps 8 years. So we didn't have a long time, and of course dividends have to be, sustainable. But we realized that we could use much of what we had done with these unloved assets in the PGM sector. And at that time, the PGM sector was stressed. You'd had the Marikana massacre. You'd had the 5-month strike called by AMCU. But we did the necessary work, and we determined that PGMs had a long-term future. We understood why current prices were depressed. Our core skills we knew we could, in terms of running mines, breaking rock, right-sizing them, we could take over into the PGM sector. So we developed a 4-step strategy which took us from zero to the biggest platinum producer or PGM producer in a period of a few years. What we had to do, we had to level the playing field. Now, I know many of you would sit there and think, gee, you ran a company with bad labor relations. But part of the problem the industry had created is the big mining companies, I think because of legacy issues, it got weak. And they'd allowed unions to run their businesses, almost step in place of HR. Communication had been surrogate, and so on. We knew that if we had to deal with radical union movements, and as I said, we'd just had Marikana and we'd had the 5-month strike in the sector. The only way to do that, especially with South Africa's history, was to win the hearts and minds of our employees. So, Professor Vilakazi, you mentioned this. We worked very, very hard to establish the right type of relationship with our employees and communities. And it was a necessary strategy to take back the right to manage. Because if you can't manage, you can't make the sort of differences you've seen us make as a company. And we developed a tree. And that tree I need to describe because it set the scene. And this tree was developed in 2013 as a symbol. It set the scene for a new ethos and a new way of mining companies thinking about social issues, stakeholder issues, and let me describe the tree. So the roots of the tree are your values, and any company would know the importance of values. If you don't have values in your roots, you really have probably a very weak culture and company. So our iCare's values are the roots of the tree. You need roots to grow. The trunk of the tree is our people. Again, you're going to see a constant thread of the importance of people. And of course, the trunk gives the tree direction and strength. And the tree has to be profitable. If you look at our tree, you'll see it's safe, cost, volume, and quality or grade. And then the canopy of the tree are your stakeholders and the environment. So we listed all our our key stakeholders. There's many stakeholders. So our key stakeholders being government, employees, management, shareholders, suppliers, unions, organized labor. And of course, if that tree is a healthy tree if the nutrients in the roots, being the environment we work in, and the tree is healthy, it bears fruit. And we call that fruit superior value. And we defined what the superior value was for each stakeholder. And that became a model of stakeholder capitalism. And that's how we won the hearts and minds of our employees, because we worked very hard to make sure that everybody shared in the value in what we do. And that allowed us to take on the unions. And we did, not to beat unions, but to take back our right to manage. And of course, the unions pushed back, and we had our strikes, but we made our point. It gave us the confidence to deal with the Marikana disaster, because Lonmin was a company that had processing capacity, and if you didn't have the complete combination of mining, processing, you weren't going to be a proper PGM company. You weren't going to be in the league of Anglo Platinum or Impala Platinum. So Lonmin was key, and it was the only one that was, let's say, likely available as a target. But you had to now deal with the Marikana disaster. So that sort of approach to business, where it's not just shareholders. And let me tell you how we used that tree. Not only did it develop this concept of shared value, but where we had unreasonable demands by any one of those stakeholders, such as government wanting us to re-empower assets, you would say, well, where must we take that from? You can't keep on abusing shareholders. Shareholders put in money at risk. And we could sort of almost take a third-party point of view. Unions that came with unrealistic demands. So which stakeholder do you want to abuse? It's not management. You're abusing a model. So that's how we used the tree. And so it wasn't just a concept. It was actually a very useful tool in negotiations. So I want to talk a little bit about Marikana and that process of now having developed confidence, taken back our right to manage, and recognizing that the Marikana disaster, even today, is still not closed. It was a brutal event. It was historic, not just in South Africa, but in the entire world. We learned that if you wanted to make a point to a stakeholder, prioritize them. And we knew it was not the right thing to sweep the disaster under the carpet, if I could call it that. We knew if we tried to change the name, and we never changed the name even today, that operation is still called Marikana. It would have been seen as trying to avoid the issue. So the very first thing we did before meeting any other stakeholder was we met with the widows. We felt they were the ones most aggrieved, and those that had taken the most pain in terms of what happened there. And we met with those widows, and not just the AMCU widows. You must remember this was a very divided situation. AMCU was meeting with the AMCU widows. NUM was meeting with the NUM widows. They never got together. Some weren't even affiliated to a union. They were just excluded. So we pulled them all together. We met with them, and the first thing we said is, whatever commitments have been made, we will honor. But we'll actually go further, and we'll expedite some of the promises that had been made to you, because the unions were abusing the situation. They wanted to keep the wounds raw, because that's how they could get leverage, drive their own agendas. and we expedited the building of houses for all those widows. We committed to the educational trusts, and I'm going to share with you some of the, it's not just things I say, but some of the things that have happened that will show you the respect we've earned in doing that. But I would almost say that in many of the things that I've done, that was probably one of the highlights in my career, was dealing with Marikana, not sweeping it under the table. We introduced, in fact, a similar lecture to this that we do annually to make sure we never forget about what happened at Marikana, what caused it, and to honor, engage, and create. So there were two incidents that really, I think, indicate how we were received. The one was that a widow gave me her husband's watch. So that was, with sincere gratitude, and it's something that takes pride of place in my collection. A second more recent example of the appreciation was some of these people that the family members have gone through school, gone through university, and some of them even work for our company. And one of them actually robed me in a Basotho blanket. So those are sincere examples and tokens that I think explain how we as a company and the ethos we developed have allowed us to navigate and do the right things, not try and sweep them under the table. We've made a lasting difference. Now, I'm not for a minute trying to say that that journey is complete. I think it's only started, and I know Richard and his team will take that to a logical conclusion. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that until justice is served, you won't get closure. And we have programs that we're working on justice. There are people that need to be held accountable for what happened. So the next thing I would like to share with you is how and when we incorporated the I into our iCares, the innovation, because it's, I think, innovation, digitalization, artificial intelligence, all those things are really current in any form of engineering. So it really goes back to the COVID era. We had acquired a large position in PGMs, and no sooner had we done that we were all hit by the COVID pandemic. And as a company, we scrambled. We had 80,000 employees at the time. We had to make sure they were catered for. They were accommodated not only financially, but also we built medical facilities to make sure they could be properly catered for if they got COVID and so on. But COVID was a time of reflection as well, and we all had to work virtually. And that's not such a different concept, but we then started embracing becoming a digital organization. We had already embarked on Digimine and so on, but we really realized that we had to become far more innovative. We use a term called anti-fragility. In a situation that a disaster like COVID, you've got to look for the opportunity, and that was the opportunity of changing the company, embracing digital work methods, and so on. But innovation is more than just digitalization, and we implemented the innovation value, which I think even through the work that Wits is doing, you can see that even the name of the bridge is the Innovation Bridge. So that was another good learning experience. What I want to then move on to is just what we call the grey elephants. So we went through this period of huge disruption, and we started developing a strategy that was based on the landscape of the time, this very complex landscape. And the model of grey elephants is almost like trying to develop scenarios for black swan events. The consultants we used introduced us to these grey elephants. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one is called the Angry Planet. The other grey elephant is called the Angry People, Inequality, the Big Squeezes, Multipolarity. And so grey elephant is a major disruptive event that is ignored. COVID-19 was known about, it was ignored. And we didn't want to be naive, put our heads in the sand and think there were no other grey elephants. So those grey elephants actually took us into areas that I'm going to share with you now. So the Angry Planet. I think, there's a few people in denial, but global warming is probably one of the biggest issues facing the world. And it's real. The change of economies driven by hydrocarbons to renewable energy and so on is well known in this room. But for us, we saw the opportunity to expand into other metals, because the mix of metals required in an economy based on renewable energy is very different from the mix of metals required in a hydrocarbon type economy. Now, PGMs are green metals. They are metals used for many purposes, but primarily for cleaning the air, and ultimately will find their way into the hydrogen economy and fuel cells. So we had a big base. We recognized renewables, that mobility was going to change, and we moved into what we call the battery metals. So again, another very important learning. The other area that I just want to then touch on is multipolarity. And whereas pre-COVID, the world was global. It was almost like one big community. But of course, COVID was hugely disruptive to supply chains, and not everybody locked down at the same time or for the same duration, and it was highly disruptive and impacted us as suppliers of metals to car companies, as an example. And the rest of the world realized that as well, not just Sibanye-Stillwater, and deglobalization has started. And today, you can see how polarized that deglobalization has become. The entire world is now trying to ensure that it's self-sufficient on its own metals, for political reasons, absolutely, but also because of the learnings of COVID-19 and the supply chain disruptions. The invasion of the Ukraine is another pandemic even though it's a war, we view it as a pandemic that disrupted supply chains. And we recognized that early on, and we decided as a company that our whole focus was going to be a Western-facing focus for commercial reasons. The East had a lot of these metals. The West was very slow in being self-sufficient in terms of rare earths, copper, even PGMs, lithium, and so on. So we built up good relationships in the US, and in fact, the acquisition of Stillwater was partially informed by that, was partially informed by being the only primary palladium producer. It was informed by having a large recycling business, and I'll talk a little bit more about recycling and tailings retreatment. But the grey elephant of multipolarity drove us into Europe and into the US, and I think it'll serve us very well. You've noticed how desperate the US and Europe have become, and they've introduced acts, and we've been very instrumental in terms of things like the IRA and what they call Section 45X getting extended not only into refining but into the underground environment. So again, the expansion of Sibanye internationally is not because we're anti-South Africa at all. It's a strategy of being well positioned, recognizing these trends or grey elephants. I can really talk a lot more about those, but I think you've got the gist of it. I suppose one of my concerns is really, and I'm going to finish here, is really where we find ourselves in South Africa. And you might not like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. We have a wonderful country with real potential, and if you look at the runs on the scoreboard, we just constantly go backwards. And that's got to change, and it's only going to change by people voting in the right way. And let me share with you what I mean. Our single biggest issues in South Africa are inequality, poverty, and that's generally driven by unemployment. To change unemployment, there's a limit in terms of what you can do by constantly trying to divide a fixed pie smaller and smaller. That's not the way to do it. The way to address unemployment and create respect for a man or a woman that doesn't have a job is to grow the economy. So why does the economy not grow? It doesn't grow for two reasons. Okay? The one is we do not have investment-friendly policies, and investment comes primarily from the Western world, and we keep on poking the Western world in its eye. It doesn't come from China. It doesn't come from Iran and Russia. We don't do roadshows there. People don't have money to invest. So not only do we have bad, let me say, commercial policies that detract from investment, we had bad foreign policy. We say we're neutral, we're not. And until we get that right, the ability to mine and extract critical metals, to use South Africa as a springboard into the rest of Africa is not going to happen. And if you think this is just about mining, it's not. When mining goes into remote areas, you take telecoms with you, you take the power industry with you, you take the the legal, the financial industry. And at this stage, we just do not do the right things, not only to mine in our own country, but to use our country as a springboard into the rest of Africa. And Africa is underexplored. Africa will benefit from mining. Mining develops communities, and if it's done the right way, and I've given you examples of how Sibanye-Stillwater used to mine, or still does mine, and how other companies, I think similarly. That ethos is about stakeholder capitalism. It's not about shareholder capitalism anymore. So capitalism is good, it's not bad. So again, thank you for the opportunity to use this very prestigious platform to deliver this address. Thank you. I hope that was useful.
Before you go, I think maybe you need to remain there for a few minutes, maybe you can take questions, and I can see people want to ask questions. That there are a lot of questions. The floor is yours, people. You can start, and then you can tell me online if there's any question there. I can come and read it.
So I don't know if everybody heard that. I've been asked. I'm happy to take questions, Master of Ceremonies, if you're happy with that.
Yes, I'm able.
Okay. Perhaps if you have a question, you can just raise your hand. I'm pleased to see there's no questions. Yes.
Ancient is the first name and all protocols observed by you antiquity and in the commission. So I've been up to Zimbabwe, I've done several work there. So I wanted to ask, SAIMechE is called value as innovation. I've been to the mechanized mining at RPM, so I wanted to know if SAIMechE are you invested in maybe other mechanized mining where they use digital transformation, or is just there to be mined, or maybe are you planning to have others in the future or not? Thank you.
Listen, I think I should hand that over to the CEO. Richard, would you like to respond? I can say we do have mechanized mining, and perhaps you can talk a little bit more about your thinking on that front, Rich.
Thanks very much, and that's called retirement. No, I think a great question. Let me talk more generally and specifically what we're looking at. I think technology, some digital, certainly AI, is probably one of the biggest opportunities that we potentially have in the South African mining industry. We are quite unique if you look at our mining compared to global mining in the nature of it, which is what we call tabular, so it's narrow tabular, and historically it's been very labor intensive. That means that a lot of classic technology that's been employed is often for bulk mining, open pits that other global companies have used. And in many ways, I think we might have fallen a little bit behind. But a lot of the digital opportunities we've got now, and a lot of the technology you're describing, I actually think we've got an opportunity to almost catapult ourselves ahead, because we're all at the same starting line. And certainly, I think in terms of mechanization, where we've got those opportunities, we will be using it. Batapeli is one. Our mine in the US is one. But I think looking broader than that to sort of general technology, digital, particularly the use of AI. We have complex mining systems in South Africa, It's not just about efficiency, it's about an entire mining system. And how we can use technology to get that more efficient is a real opportunity.
Yeah, I just don't want to talk on behalf of the company. Perfect. I think, President, you had a question.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation. And you touched on the right to manage. It resonated so well with me because, we have such a big void in terms of leadership who do not understand that they need to earn the right to manage. With that said, could you maybe just touch a few points in terms of how do you win your employees over? I struggle with that.
Yeah. That's a good question. And first of all, let me just start with the right to manage. The shareholders are the owners of the mine, together with the people of South Africa. Both those parties appoint management. So you have a legal duty to manage. You cannot, you have proper fiduciary duties as a director, but you have a duty to manage. You can't pass that on to a third party. And so this is not about being anti-unionized. I do think that if management does the right thing, unions will become redundant. But and your question is, so first of all, how do you look after your employees and win their hearts and minds? So one of the, and listen, there's many things, but I'll tell you what we did. First of all, we communicated the truth to our employees, and no one consciously lies, but you leave it to a third party, they'll give it a spin that suits themselves. And I think the average South African likes to be spoken to directly. And I'm going to say to you that look what happened in COVID, and I'm going to carry on to answer your question. And it happened both in the US and it happened in South Africa. The Edelman Trust Barometer showed that trust improved with companies, both in South Africa and in the US, compared to government. Because companies don't have political agendas. Companies, good companies, not all companies, but companies deal with the facts. So that's a very important part, is being authentic and honest and direct with your employees. The second thing at that time you would remember was these loan sharks in the industry. And we introduced, as an example, a Care for Imali, so Care for Your Money program. So you got to find those things. That's just some of the examples. Something I didn't talk about, and whether it's your lowest level employee or your highest level employee, you got to make them all successful. They got to become winners. When we inherited these assets, it was people that were seen as unsuccessful. They had become non-core. They were almost sold. So there's a lot of building there. But you got to find those initiatives that are important to your employees. And since you can't keep on giving, but you can do many things that don't cost money, introduce programs, and things that unions should be doing but weren't doing, we just took on and did. And again, it's like a journey. We're not at the ultimate end point, but we did get the support of our employees, and they did not want to strike when they were asked to strike, and so on and so on. Yes.
everybody. This is Sianda speaking on behalf of CJC. I'm doing my N4 there. I just have a concern with regards to our dependence on the states in order for us to be self-sufficient in terms of South Africa as a whole, as well as Africa. Do you think that there is a market or a value chain that the mining industry can do with regards to production as well as manufacturing in Africa, and from us being able to move away from the dependence of the states?
Yeah, listen, the states is not dependent on us. Okay, that's the first thing. I think the Western markets are good markets for us to feed into. We don't have to be dependent on them. I think in the short term we've ended up with tariffs and things that because we don't have a diversified let's say base of markets. But we have to realize that the big markets are not in Africa yet. But we shouldn't be bullied either into situations where it's exploitation. I think that many of us sit here, and I particularly have many interactions with senior leaders in Africa where they remember the exploitation in the 50s and 60s by countries like the UK and France and so on. I think we're smarter than being exploited, but we can't not deal with them because those are where the markets are. We know what a modern mining company should be, and I should maybe just find it and read it to you, because I think that's what we must demand and accept. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. So this is our approach of a modern mining company. This definition was developed at the Johannesburg Indaba 10 years ago. And this is what we've got to demand as Africans. So a modern mining industry will optimally extract and beneficiate the country's natural resources, causing no harm to the people or the planet. It benefits both the local community as well as the national economy. It produces locally, is a preferred employer of well-skilled people, and creates appropriate risk-adjusted returns for investors. Regulations, taxation, and incentives are consistent, transparent, and recognize mining as a long-term driver of economic growth. So that's the only thing we should accept. We shouldn't be exploited, but we don't have the markets that you find in the US and so on. So we don't have to be dependent on them. But we must get this model right. Yes.
Hi, thank you. I'm one of the staff members in the School of Mechanical Engineering. Very interesting, your vision of a very human-centric approach to mining. I really applaud you all for that. What I wanted to ask about is, you mentioned recycling, and didn't go into too much more detail, but one of the issues we're seeing, for example, with renewables, is people are talking about the batteries and that we don't have cost-effective means to recycle those batteries. What are the impediments that you're seeing to us actually making that recycling viable?
You're right. I forgot to go into that aspect because, James, I deviated from my speech. So first of all, very good question, and if I can cover recycling and tailings retreatment, then we'll get to your specific question on battery recycling. So primary mining done on its own, even if it's done environmentally friendly and to the highest standards, if you don't embrace recycling, your model of being environmentally friendly just because you do primary mining is flawed. So Sibanye embarked on embracing recycling, which was our first, one of our it was a very important reason in buying Stillwater in the US, which recycles autocats, catalytic converters, and has since expanded into not only recycling or catalytic converters, but has also expanded into the recycling of electronic waste. So the company has a very nice portfolio of recycling. The third leg of the, let's call it its operational focus, is tailings retreatment. So a controlling stake in DRD, probably the preeminent tailings retreatment company, and as you know, mine dumps are ugly, and cleaning them up is important, but extracting metals that still sit within those mine dumps, some of them very valuable metals, some of them quite important to address environmentally, is important. We call that resource stewardship. So it shows the best possible intent as a mining company to fully embrace environmental stewardship. So that's what I wanted to say, and it separates us from all our competitors. They don't have a portfolio like that. In terms of recycling, so catalytic converters, the extraction of platinum, palladium, rhodium, absolutely no problem. The technology is reasonably simple, and many people do it. Electronic waste is a little bit more complex because it includes many other metals. Some of the metals I've mentioned in terms of autocats, but many more. When you get, and you're not asking about lead acid batteries. Lead acid batteries are easy to recycle, we all know that. But when you start talking about lithium ion containing nickel, cobalt, and so on, it is very difficult. Now, again, I don't want to talk on behalf of the company, but the company embarked on building what we call a PCAM plant out of a nickel refinery in France, with a view to introducing lithium, nickel, and iron batteries into that process. But many people have failed, and Rich, I would say you're just taking it very, very carefully, proper engineering, but it's a real challenge dealing with the black mass. People have raised billions of dollars, supposedly have got it right, but then run out of money because they haven't got it right. We've looked at many as Sibanye Stillwater. It's a real challenge. Might be something that the university, probably on the chemical engineering side, should be thinking. Yes.
Thank you, sir. My name is Matlatsi. So you mentioned foreign investment policies as one of the major challenges in the country. I just wanted to find out what are some of these major issues that we have in the country. And you also mentioned that South Africa says that it's a neutral state. I want to find out from you, what does a neutral state look like? And is there hope for us as a country in actually turning, or rather getting things right in terms of those investment policies. If you could just comment of that. Thanks.
Yes, and I can't see you. Sorry, the TV guy or the camera guy. I will certainly share with you my view. Listen, I think there's great hope for the country. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Things that we all now exposed to on a daily basis, such as the Matlanga Commission, and really how deep corruption and crime is pervasive, is a very dark cloud. But the fact that we're having the commission and we're going to end up with a set of recommendations which I think will be good, will allow us to tackle the problems. And I think that the real issue is one currently of ideology and control by government instead of partnerships with civil society, business, and once all that changes, and it's going to have to change because the state does not have the capacity or the specialist skills to deal with these changes that have to take place. And I don't say this just as a view, I say it as the chairman of Business Against Crime and interacting with our president on a very private basis. There's deep divisions, we all know that. I think the GNU was the first step in a direction to get a balance of power. As I say, I think things will probably get worse, but the fact that we have these things being exposed means we can fix them. So I remain hopeful. I can see light at the end of the tunnel. You know that I'm very open in my criticism, but I'm sharing with you now a positive message because I think the trajectory of the country was like this. With the GNU, it turned like that, and I think you will see it bottom out and we can start building again. We're resilient people. We must be like our soccer team and our rugby team. We must win this game. We've won it before through very difficult circumstances. So I'm hopeful. I'm willing to put time into these things, and I am. Yeah.
There's no online question there. I think let's take two more questions so that I can see some angry faces so that we can just call it a day. And I can see also you've been standing for quite long. You can ask two questions.
Thank you. There were two at the back, so the gentleman on the right.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the great speech, Mr. Frontman. I've got one question, maybe with two answers. I just want to check, what were the strategies that you used because you were profitable during the load shedding times? How did you maneuver around load shedding? And then the second one, as you touched on the grey elephants, electricity is starting to go up now. How has it affected your business? Thank you.
Yes. So again, I'll give you some history, and then Rich, maybe you want to talk about electricity and its impact looking forward. So first of all, when you have multiple shafts, mines, you have flexibility. If you're running a single asset like the Wimpy and you get load shedded, there's no way of clawing that lost income back. When you have assets like we have, mature assets, they generally are currently sized at well below capacity. We can use the flexibility of a number of assets in different regions, and we can use catch-up capacity. And our teams did that very well. We also knew which were most profitable, and of course we would shed load on the least profitable assets. So it's almost it's just logical stuff. You would do the same if you were managing the business. You would start looking at how you deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But we also realized that we needed to become less dependent on Eskom. We're one of the biggest power users in the country. So you couldn't just carry on, and especially when load shedding became very intensive, we had to have a long-term alternative plan. So we combined that with our decarbonisation project, and we embarked on putting in renewable energy, wind energy. And if you look at us today, Richard and James, I don't know how many megawatts of that has been commissioned, but a lot. That is the longer term solution. And maybe I'd just add on that clearly you need to recognize that the wind doesn't blow all the time, and renewables only, or solar panels only work in the day. So storage, energy storage becomes important. We've done a lot of work on that. Gravity storage, we've got 2,000 meter heads. As mechanical engineers, you'll know that's a big number. We've got vast volumes, underground in terms of either compressed air or hydropower type storage and systems. So those are still being evolved. The cost of electricity hurts us all very, very much. But Rich, maybe you want to just comment on how you see it going forward.
Thanks, Neil. And perhaps just the one I'll add to what we also did to help minimize the impact of load shedding, and this goes back to innovation and technology discussion. One of our engineers actually built a digital twin of our basically of our operations on an electrical circuit, and during load shedding optimized throughout the system how we managed various loads across the operations, which was unique and I think saved us about R500 million in the year that he built it. But what we haven't even touched on is what impact could that have if you now marry that digital twin with AI? And now we're not just talking load shedding anymore, we're talking demand in general, how we can use it. And I think it's a great example of where we've used real innovation, out of a difficult time, but can become a competitive edge going forward. I think going forward, as Neil mentioned, we've got about 700 megawatts of renewable energy that we are in the pipeline of building. I think 250 of that's already been commissioned. So that's a big part of the strategy, is renewable. But again, we do also work with government, with Eskom. They still are going to remain a critical stakeholder in the country. And part of it is making sure that they deliver what is needed for business and the country. So that will continue to be part of our strategy as well. But becoming independent through the renewables is really a big part of that. And we should be up to well above 50 to 60% independent of Eskom on renewables over the next 4 or 5 years.
Thank you. Is there time for that last question?
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I think let's take maybe the last one from my neighbor here. He was just saying that you can't leave me alone. I'm sitting next to you. So, yeah, I think the other questions we'll be able to talk outside. I mean, we still have the time for networking and all that. So I understand that this is a very informative topic or presentation, but we're just looking for the time also, because there's one last more item and all that. So my neighbor, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, my neighbor. To Mr. Makuluskop, and then as my leader has said, thank you very much. I am Khalo Labatau. I am indigenous leader. We are called traditional leaders. And on things that you have just touched, I wish that everybody could be an engineering, because you've shown me, maybe even some other people in here, that you were not looking mining as only a business, but you have looked and touched my understanding of how you look around in your environment and doing everything that even they were to be worse under your control. And then thank you for that. But what I wanted to say firstly, I've got just 2 short notices that I have had. Thank you also for safety. I am one of the product, maybe I would be called engineer one day. I've been in the mining sometime in the Free Gold, in Free State, and then I knew what you're talking about. 5 ways of safety, that we were singing it every day. And if that could be as cool or understanding of other people, that in the leadership, you must care of every life aspect like you practice and do. And as the school, I should think that it was my encouragement on the 14th of this month in the Torak Heritage opening in Cape Town. And I said, we are not only custodians as the kings, the leaders, and other, by so to say, but we have to live this indigenous living, and where we get to educate even our society to respect the soil, the land, and everything in the nature, because my understanding is the nature is the mother. And then even the business people, if they could understand that we are taking from the mother, is there any way to give it back? And to say, we have to thank our ancestors that has done this. We have to thank even the soil that we are taking from. Maybe it's because of these disasters and pandemics that are failing on us. But because we are not realizing that when we take, we have to give back. And then to us as traditional leader, trying to teach people on the same thing, we don't get anything from business people or business sector or even the schools. And then my plea to a very person that I seem to be think that it's like you, Professor Dutz, who has found out that Daung child skull exploring that it was here being a cradle of humankind. And then we are on the way, and then I needed to hear from you that any help that for the community, helping us to celebrate that 100 years of the recommendation that has ever been stood as the true and the finding that really the first ancestor come from South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just say that that just pre-leaving, Sabanya has embarked on leading for the entire global mining industry the Nature Initiative, and it's early days. We're working with Jay Naidu. We're working in that region, the cradle of humankind. We are stakeholders in that region. And I would urge you to speak to the current management. I think you will find them very receptive. But I wanted to make one other point on safety, because it's our single biggest priority in mining. And there's a perception that it's a dangerous industry. It's a very high-risk industry. But the most dangerous part of a miner's job is actually driving to work. It's not working underground. That's how far we've come as an industry. And that's through human sciences, eliminating risk, engineering out risk, innovation, all those things. And we work very hard at it. And it's a journey. We're still on it. Thank you.
Before, this is the last question, the last question. I'm giving you this, my Gauteng chairperson of SAIMechE. If it's not going to be more, it's not going to allow. So close with the last question, Mr. Mokwatlo. Then we go.
Okay, thanks. Thank you to our CEO. Okay, yes, my name is John Mokwatlo. I'm the chairperson of SAIMechE Central Branch. Here in Gauteng, but I'm based in Lephalale, okay, in Limpopo. Okay, thank you for taking your time, Mr. Freeman, for to share your experience with us regarding Sibanye. Yes, you just touched my heart there when you were talking about the previous fatality of, I think you mentioned 12 people. Yeah, so I just wanted to know, currently, but anyway, you like you left the mine. At this moment, what is your safety statistics? Because I wanted to bring the engineering students to the mine also, just to have a tour. So they must not be scared. Yeah. So at this moment, how is the statistics there in terms of safety?
So, Rich, you're more current?
Thanks very much. I mean, I think, we can obviously get into a lot of numbers, but suffice to say, our safety statistics this year have been the best that we've ever experienced. They've come down consistently since 2018, as Neil mentioned. As a company, in terms of fatal incidents, we've very sadly had 4 too many this year. Albeit a significant reduction from where we've come from. Our absolute commitment is to get to 0. And I think I speak on behalf of the entire mining industry. We've seen a decline in terms of the number of fatal incidents we suffer as an industry. We had our best year ever last year. But getting to 0 remains our absolute commitment. I think in terms of visiting operations, I can assure you that visiting an underground operation, I dare say in most mines in South Africa, is a very safe visit. We send 60,000 people underground every day, and for the last 4 days in our company, all 60,000 have come out without a single scratch, which is something we're very proud of. So it's an absolutely safe environment to visit. You do not need to worry about that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frontman. As we come to an end, this was a very, very informative presentation or lecture. Indeed, there's no shortcut in life or engineering. Shortcuts lead to catastrophic events. We had it, and we still need to write that government certificate of competency. That's a GCC in Mines and Works, so that we can start like you. Students, it's your opportunity. Mr. Mokwatlo is there, will take you to the mines and learn or two things. Without wasting time, we're coming to closer to an end of our program. I would like to call our president to come forward and express appreciation on behalf of SAIMechE and to the guest speaker. Over to you, President. Don't be scared, it's your time.
Thank you once again. I must say, this was one of the most captivating talks we've had in a while. I mean, it was just so relevant. So one of the things I like to talk to students a lot in the upcoming, and I speak to the issue of leadership and how engineers should actually not forget that they are leaders in our own right. And then we should strive to occupy the right offices, you know. You spoke in painstaking length in terms of how everything is. And one of the solutions is really to integrate technocracy. You know, the prospering nations have a lot of technocrats in the right places. So. But we shouldn't keep quiet as engineers. I think that's very important. We should reclaim our voices. Very important. With that said, yes, 100%. Round of applause to that. With that said, Mr. Neil Froneman, thank you. Thanks a lot for making the time. Thank you for sharing the insights. Thank you for sharing the wisdom. So much was shared across the spectrum. You know, now I know much more about the mine, but I actually know more about management and the importance of leadership as well. How we should always speak to people, you know, and I think you've just, you know, and again, it speaks to leadership. When leadership works, everything works. So when you go back, let us all just pull out the leader in yourselves. You know, as a leader, what do I do to enact change in the immediate community? You spoke about community. What do you as an individual do in your own community to uplift the next person? You know, if every single person does one act like that, really the society is going to go in a different direction. So with that, thank you. Where's Ansel? We have a token for Mr. Froneman, right?
As usual.
100%. Can you maybe bring it? Thank you. Thank you a lot, Mr. Froneman. I think just come up, and so we can.
And you must know it's not only him; it's the Dean of Engineering, the HOD, and the Vice Chancellor.
100%.
All right. Thank you very much.
Where's the photographer? Is it a photographer here? Round of applause to Mr. Froneman. There's one gift that's for the wifey, I can see. We would also like to a token of appreciation to the Dean of Faculty, right? The HOD. Wow. Apologies, I'm not observing protocol. I apologize. Yes. 100%. You see, that's why we should have done a dry run. You see, you're exposing me. Anyway, we would like to give a token of appreciation to Prof. Nico Velger, the head of engineering. Round of applause to him. Yeah, so Prof. Reed just mentioned, today he's resting, he's having a wonderful time. I can just imagine the stress that's happening here. So it's quite stressful, daunting task. So thanks to him. Round of applause. All right, Ansel, you'll help me. Thank you. Can we have Prof. Takazane Albert, please? And I shall refer again
This
to
one
the
you know
MC.
it yourself. I mean, this one you know it. I don't have to remind you.
I'm breaking a sweat right now. But let me see. The Makulu bus. Gugambila. A token of appreciation to our host. And thank you, for attending. Next year, I hope to see you here. Vice Chancellor, Prof. Vilagazi. All right, I think that concludes my part of the agenda. I hand back proceedings over to Mr. Ansel.
So we just want to say to the people, drive safely, and we've got an opportunity of networking outside there. There's no time to say more things, and I heard that there's something, the snack that we can grab outside there. Am I right, Prof. Wilke? Okay, yeah, there's something that we can just get outside. So we're looking forward to this event. Come back next year. It will be bigger than this, and we still need all the people that were here, our guest speakers or guests of honor. Thank you very much. Drive safely. Have a lovely weekend. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
My man.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right. So I'll send you a WhatsApp. Do that. Okay.